Bronx Goodwin, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA.
No, cheers, brother. I really appreciate you having me on.
That's awesome, mate. I really appreciate you coming on, mate. I know, like we were just talking about before off air, busy man.
Yeah.
But, just to spend a couple of minutes just talking about your footy career and,
Yeah.
Perth, you being from Perth, it means a lot to me, mate. So really appreciate it.
No, mate, I always rep Perth, whenever I can. I'm a product of WA, even though I was born in New South Wales. I grew up, my whole life was brought up in Perth. So my whole football career started with mum taking me to South Perth training when I was a kid, or Canning Bulldogs. They're not there anymore. But, mate, I really enjoy repping the state itself, yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. And that's what we need. We need more people like yourself, these former players, even the current ones that are from Perth to, represent Perth. I know Kennedy Sherrington's doing a great job with that at the moment.
Yeah, I saw she was just over there was she over there last week?
With she was up doing the regional stuff with some of the guys, yeah.
That's awesome, yeah. And that's exactly right. The more ever since we came over, there wasn't too many Perth prodigies coming over.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, bro. Hold on.
Right.
I'm just gonna get rid of my wife off the she's trying to ring. Can you still see me, bud?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll just let her ring through. Since we came over, so myself and Daniel Holsworth, actually, we came over, and I think Matty Peterson, there wasn't too many of us, but now every second person, is coming over. So the more the better. I think leading into the future, if we have more, WA prospects, it goes a long way to getting another team over there one day.
Exactly.
Everyone coming out of there, mate, it's pretty hard not to think about the team getting moved there.
Yeah, and like we're just talking about that team, there's been a lot of talk. I know last year there was a lot of talk about Perth and North Sydney, maybe joining up, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, Perth hosted Origin last year, and then all of a sudden this year it seems Perth's gone by the wayside, and they're talking about the Pacifica team.
Yeah.
They're just bringing just North Sydney back, all these sort of things. What have your thoughts been on that sort of talk?
Oh, you live over here, and there's something new every day with football. I'd be pretty disappointed if they didn't really have a good look at it. It's definitely a place that needs to be looked at. I'm not saying Pacifica doesn't need to, but definitely WA. It has to be on the cards over there. It's there's a lot of people, like I said before, that would put their hand up gratefully to come back and help make the club a success. I'd be one of them. If anything ever happened, I'd be the first person to put my hand up and make the move back to coach or to do whatever to get the club up and going.
Yeah, no, that's it. And I know like people like MG who played over here as well. Those sort of guys, they loved it over here, and I'm sure they would do anything. Even though his heart's with Penrith and his boys at Penrith, but I'm sure he would put his hand up to come over and help out too. So
that's the thing.
That's what we need.
You're right. Everyone's happy to help out. And like there's enough of us now over here to come back to where we grew up. There's a lot of people in the coaching ranks that have around the grounds now that would be more than willing to get over there. And if it ever happens on the day, or Perth ever gets a team back in the comp, my dog's going to go off its head in a minute. Then my wife just came home. But if that was ever the case, there's a strong factor there that you need to bring these people home. Sivo, he's named after Micah Sivo.
Nice.
He's a big blue heeler, just doesn't stop. But you have to. I've been around many clubs, in the NRL, and it's always about the culture and the passion. I think being part of what sort of presented WA. I use them as an example. There's a lot more pride. Sivo, there's a lot more pride. When you actually have something to do with the state or the country. That's my only opinion, but to build a culture, that's where it starts.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, man, and that's exactly what we need. Like I said, we need the guys like yourself, Bryson, your brother Luke as well. You know,
Yeah.
any of the guys that you know, like Kennedy and I think Wonga Blake is from Perth.
Yeah.
Jordan
Yeah.
Pereira. There's a fair few.
There's
you
a
know,
lot
and
of
then the
boys
guys
there.
that play for the Western Reds as well. You know, like yeah,
You got Daniel Holsworth, you got Corey Patterson off the top of my head. Then, you know, there's a lot of my mates that still live over there. So like Ryan Dixon and all those boys that I grew up with, they're all still over there. So they all know football. So it's like it's a lost cause to go over there because there is a lot of people that understand it in the game over there. So yeah.
And it's what I've found last couple of years, the game's picked up a lot better over here. A lot of the there's more clubs coming in. There's 3 senior grades now with a lot of clubs. Yeah. The juniors from under 6s up to under 12s at the moment, he's going off. So
that's you know, and that's what I dare say. You know, I'm not in the NRL, but I dare say they look at you know, junior competitions and see what it's like over there. So you know, the more you get playing the game, the better it is to obviously have a chance to get the team back in there because you know they look at the big picture, not just the team itself.
Yeah.
And for those kids in there, mate, they'll get them over there.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, I was talking to some people recently, and outside of New South Wales and Queensland, WA's got the biggest junior base.
Jeez, there you go.
Yeah, so we've got the I guess the cattle here and the future here.
Yeah,
it's just whether the NRL wants to invest in it.
Yeah, you know, it is. It's and I've heard a lot of stories over. You know, it's only getting better. You know, and you bring something like that where a young kid can to look up to and then go. You know, that's my home team.
Yeah.
You know, they'll want to stay there and they want to play there. That's the thing you need. You know, I've been involved in clubs, and usually your best players are the players that have come through your junior ranks and get to pull on the first grade jersey for their local club. It happens everywhere. You know, the pride in it. I did it at South Perth, like playing juniors, and then finally get that day you get to play first grade. It's the best day in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of your career, mate, being in the NRL, debut for Canberra against South Sydney.
No, Bryce, South Sydney.
Oh, was it? Sorry.
Yeah. So I was Canberra, got a bit of strife, and then I came back to Cronulla. And then I moved to the Illawarra under Wayne Bennett with the Dragons. And spent a long time with the Dragons. And then, I obviously retired and I still live in the area. So my girls, we settled here we live in Shell Harbour. Down my way. And obviously now I coach our New South Wales Cup side for St George. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, awesome.
So I'm now...
Well
so coaching now, it's a different kettle of fish, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I bet, mate. I absolutely bet it is. I was reading up that, you know, when you were at the Dragons, basically at the end of your career, you suffered a knee injury and had to have reconstruction, and that's what basically brought on your retirement, I guess.
Yeah, so later in my career, I first moved to the Dragons and I had to get an elbow reconstruction, first of all. And then I did my knee. And then the medical staff, I was cleared for some reason. I had a 1 in a million ACL tear that wasn't picked up on a CT and an MRI. They never picked it up. And then, I sat out for 10 weeks just getting the medial right. And then we went down to Melbourne. My first came back. We're playing the Storm down there. And I just stepped. I remember Kevy Proctor was coming at me and I stepped. And then bang, my knee went. So luckily enough, then I signed a 2-year extension. So then it came back from that. And then first trial match up in Cairns, we played the Cowboys. And I just went to make a tackle and got hit under the pec and it tore my pec off the bone. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end. You know, I was getting on in age for a footballer. I think I was around 30 or so. And it was disappointing all of that. There was a lot of years that I missed later in my career because of injury. But I wouldn't change for the world. I still got a lot of good friends in that time, and I did a lot of good work around with our juniors and stuff like that, and sort of really made my passion on where I sort of sat with football after football, if you understand what I'm saying. What led me into helping out and giving my time and volunteering with the younger grades for the last, I've done that for the last 3-4 years with the Jersey Flegg side with the Dragons. So I became their lead medical officer with the orange shirt that we wear.
Yep.
So I started doing all that, and then at the end of last year, I had a good chat with Benny Iran, who's the football manager at the Dragons, and Hook, obviously the coach. Everyone knows about the Hook. And he said, well, asked me if I'd like to coach the New South Wales Cup side, and obviously that's where I sit this as of now. I'm sitting there coaching the Cup side. So, yeah.
That's awesome, mate. That's awesome. Like going through the system and working your way up to being the coach of the New South Wales Cup side, man, it's a hell of an achievement.
Yeah, it is, mate. It's I sort of didn't, I stepped away from football, so I've been away from football itself as being really involved for about 7 years to 8 years. I retired and I went into the workforce. I work with a company down here, it's taught me a lot of business skills and a lot of stuff, life skills outside of football, because I was very institutionalized around football. When you get into the state, where you're playing first grade, you're getting everything on a platter.
Yeah.
If you want your socks folded, they'll fold your socks. You know what I mean? So then I stepped away. Had a real big eye opener and understood business and really succeeded outside of football. Just to with the same attributes that got me playing football, I just took with me to my everyday life, and my football sort of came second then. And now I sort of understood that. I sort of stepped back in. I use those skills that I've learned in coaching along with my own personal opinions and personal learnings from how I was treated to what I think works as a coach. And it actually works. It's been a good mix, actually, stepping away from football but coming back with better knowledge, if you ask myself. So
well, that's what I was going to ask you. How have you taken your experience from the workforce? Being excluding yourself from the NRL or the rugby league side of things to going into the workforce, and then coming back and dealing with players and stuff like that, and especially being a coach now. How has that helped you basically manage the players?
Yeah, it does, and I'm all about learning. It's funny as it says, I knew everything when I was playing, I can tell you that. But yeah, it's just I thought I'd be that coach that demands and stuff like that. But it's I think it's more about your personality to get along with someone. Because everyone where I coach, everyone can play football. They're all full-time footballers. I don't have to do much skill coaching as per se, because they all know it. They're all there for a reason. Mine is more about man management, and that's what I do for a job. So I take all that stuff that I use at a job. I manage 120 blokes daily, and females, mind you. But I take that same philosophy into working with my guys. It's all a learning curve. I'm a big believer of everyone makes mistakes, but you only make mistakes to better yourself, is how I see it.
Absolutely.
And, I've been under some coaches that didn't treat me like that and treat me fairly, which it's to their own. I don't hold any grudges about it, but I really had a good think about how I wanted to treat people, because I've been there and I've had the coach that I just hated. It didn't want to play football anymore and really turned me down. And I sort of vowed to myself I'd never make anyone else feel like that in and around football. And that's the way I take it. I'm a big believer on making sure you work on the positives just as much as you work on the negatives. Because you have to, mate. It's like someone's just always in the air and this is wrong, that's wrong, this is always wrong. Well, what do? You turn off to those people. You have no connection. And know them on a personal level. I know them on a personal level. I can have a joke with them, but when it comes time for me to be the coach, and the respect is there. It's all about earning their respect, and things go a long way when you get that. So
but I think you being under Wayne Bennett as well, that would have helped, because the way he manages his players is very similar. He's not. A lot of people I've talked to, had interviews with, they've told me he's not exactly the technical guy, but he's the man manager, and the way he manages his players, he gets the best out of them.
Well, that's the thing. So, under Wayne, there's probably the most comfortable I've ever felt in the football era.
Yeah.
But under Wayne, it was he had a thing where he treats everyone the same but different.
Yeah.
So he knows what Bronx needs and how Bronx rolls. Yet he knows Jeremy Smith needs something else.
Yeah.
That's how I can explain Wayne. But he always had my back. That's one thing, and I've always been like that. But it's it's really brought it home to me that that is a good trait to have. I'll always have their back, as with all my family. And I don't care if you're wrong. I'll always have your back. Just tell me you're right, or tell me you're wrong, and tell me what you've done wrong. But I'll never throw you under a bus or hang you out to dry. I'd rather hang myself out to dry first than hang them out. And that's just the way I am. That's why I was sort of brought up. But it's Wayne did that for me. A couple of things I got away with. After I'd stuffed up and still didn't learn my lesson, like everyone else in this world does, I still went out as a bit of an idiot a couple of times, and people asked the club and what's happened here, and Wayne he never gave me up, but always gave me, this is the last chance. Like there's always between him and me and no one else. And that's my philosophy as well with my guys. If you're wrong, you're wrong, but let me help you.
Yeah.
No, it's not business, you know what I mean? That's what I don't like. Everyone tries to stick their nose in everyone else's business these days. And I was like, alone, because you're not getting it out. So that's how.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's like I said, that's really good to hear because, especially with the young kids these days coming up, they don't need someone yelling at them and all that sort of stuff because it's going to put them off footy. And I guess that everyone does have the different coaching styles and all that sort of stuff, but you got to be able to learn to manage your players and manage their emotions, know their needs and wants, to get the best out of them. Because these guys have been cuddled all their lives coming up, and it's not like it was back in the day, where every coach used to yell at you and make you do sprints.
That's not that anymore, man. That's the biggest thing us, probably yourself, Grant, when you went to a footy shed, it was dead quiet. You could smell the liniment deep and everyone was on. But you go into a shed these days, mate, they've got Drake playing full ball.
Yeah.
I'm like, in there, I'm like, it's not my era, but it's their era. And if it works for them, let it go. Like, I also listen to it all as well. So I know the songs, but it's like a days. It's like, out. But it's good. It's, they're expressing themselves. And you have to. You have to let them express themselves. You can't just keep them wrapped up in a box because then they just become soldiers, mate. They just become the mundane. And, the kids got there for a reason. I like to see them play. That's why you play footy. Don't put it away. You stuff 3 times, I pull you up and say, I think you probably shouldn't do what you're doing. That's my style of coaching. You got to let them play with that. What got them there, if you ask myself.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's awesome. That's it's a refreshing way of looking at it these days too. Like I said, there's not many coaches like that.
No.
Going back to when you made your debut for Canberra. When you did you get the phone call or did you get it at training?
Yeah. Yep. No, I got a phone call. I still remember where I was. I was at where was it? I was at home. I just got back to my unit. I was obviously living in Canberra. And Neil Henry was my coach at the time. Okay. So he called me and said, mate, you obviously did the thing, you're playing really well. You're going to debut this week. So at that, I was like, goosebumps. I get goosebumps now because I still remember the feeling. It's everyone goes, oh, it's your debut, but it's 20 years of hard work. Yeah. It's 15 to 20 years of hard work as a 6-year-old, 5-year-old boy watching Laurie Daly and all those boys playing footy, and that wanting to be the only thing for you to ever do is to represent at that level. Pretty big emotional thing. Like I said, I still get goosebumps. And I still remember I rang Dad first, let him know. And then, rang my mum. And, those people are the people that got me there. And obviously Mum taking me to training and obviously Dad had a big influence in our football career. But not only for yourself, for your family I was so proud of what I achieved. And they were along for the ride, And I got to play against South Sydney.
Yeah. How did your brother Luke get to come down, or was he playing at the time?
No. So I debuted in Sydney. So we went to, I think there's a Stadium Australia, whatever it is now, ANZ. So I debuted there. So I'd left Cronulla, and the fullback that I adored and looked up to was David Peachy.
Yeah.
So Peach was still playing. So I got to debut against Peach, Nigel Vungana, Nate Merritt, all these guys that I knew personally. I got to debut against those guys. And mind you, yeah, the whole family was in the stands.
Awesome.
That was
Awesome.
everyone was there, and I still remember it. We actually first time we played in the white jerseys, and I played an all right game, and then right at the end of the game, I dived on a ball and it popped out the back of me, and Peach picked it up and scored. And they would have beat us, but knocked it off. I was like, oh, thank God for that. Pretty memorable day.
No, that's awesome. No, that's cool. I was also reading up that you also got to represent your Māori heritage as well. In the warm-up game before the World Cup. No, was
2008. Yeah, that was next level, because obviously I was this white kid growing up in WA, just surfing and hanging out with my mates. To really, I moved over, and my eldest brother Luke, he sort of looked really deeply into that heritage side of things. We obviously knew, obviously my grandmother and stuff like that, but we had the opportunity, and they asked me if I'd like to represent the culture and my family. And I went into camp for 2 weeks, and probably learnt the most about my dad's side of the family that I'd ever learnt. It was awesome. Pretty special moment going out there doing the haka and doing all that. I was pretty nervous, obviously, but it takes over once you start doing it. It's just different. It takes over, and you go. But that was really good being part of that. I loved it.
Yeah, no, that would have been cool. That would have been awesome for you. Did you guys know much about your Māori heritage, or you're saying Luke looked into it, but you guys didn't know much about it?
Not at all. Dad, my dad. If you've ever spoken to my dad, he's a very quiet person. Dad, okay. You wouldn't believe it, but he's a very subdued sort of person, and never really. We grew up obviously in Perth, and so we were hidden away from that side of the family. I didn't know my dad's siblings or my aunties or uncles from my dad's side, apart from my uncle Richard. That's the only brother and sister or brother that I knew from my dad's side of the family. So it was never sort of talked about growing up or anything like that, because we're so far away and no one ever came over to visit us, or we never went over there to visit, But then, Luke because Luke was obviously back in New South Wales, and, we had South Maldives and stuff like that he, the local comps that he played, he sort of got going, and then he was sort of the big force behind it all. And then after that, we sort of, found our heritage, and obviously Brian and myself, we both asked, represented for New Zealand. Obviously Brian played in the World Cup with them. Because of eligibility. So that's it's a good thing. We know a lot more about it now.
But, that's awesome.
It was good to know. It was a sort of a part of our life that we didn't know we really had until we came over and started playing footy over here. And if you're over here now, you've been over, it's such a big thing. The cultural side of things now in football over here, you got the Tongans, the Samoans, the Kumul guys, obviously the Maldives, the Indigenous boys. That's and they all represent. But back in the day, it was a little bit frowned upon these guys because they wanted to do it. But now it's it's all inclusive, man. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and that's the great thing that where rugby league's gone these days, isn't it? That it's so multicultural. I think it's about 50-50 with being Indigenous, and Pacifica players to white players in NRL.
Exactly. Well, I think it's even higher now.
It could be
70%. It's around 76% of Pacifica players and Indigenous in the competition these days. And there is a big push to have, because of that, there's been a big push in the clubland to have mentors for these guys, because it's, I hate to say it, but there's people out there that don't understand the culture and how to and what family or what the certain cultures do and stuff like that. So that's still a learning stage over here. Having people involved in those clubs who understand the players. It's all a learning. Like as a coach, like I'm pretty lucky because I understand most of the cultures and I get along with the boys quite well. So, and that's the good thing. So they, it's just a feeling. It's hard to explain, but yeah, you just sort of know each other, and everything's going to be all right.
No, that's the way, man. Well, one of my questions that I like to ask the guys is, it is on a personal level, but with mental health being a really big thing these days, mate, have you ever gone through something, a low point in your life? And if so, how did you get through it?
Yeah. So, where do I start? You could bring me to tears. No, I was young, 23. I got in trouble at Canberra. I ended up getting sacked down in Canberra for an altercation I had. Me and a mate were out, and I was pretty low there. Probably didn't do the right things. I hit the piss. I did all the wrong things that now. Sort of spiraled my life out of control a bit. So I was pretty lucky that I had a good wife. She's sitting over there. No, but she did. She had plenty of times to walk away from me, but stuck by me. That's probably my saving grace that I had them and my two girls. But probably rock bottom was when my brother committed suicide. I think it would have been about 5-6 years ago. My eldest brother Leon, who played in WA with us. Probably he coached Bryce and I when we were kids over there. He was my biggest mentor. He hung himself for whatsoever reason. He had some pretty bad mental health, and I saw the side of it where the helping side, and obviously this day and age, I did everything I could to help him, but his mind was made up. His mind was made up that he's going to do it. And I said to my wife, after the fact, I was like, that time he left our house, because I brought him to my house. He lived out in the country. I brought him up here to try and help him out, and then he said, I want to go back and see my son. And it's pretty hard to say no to that. And and I sort of knew then that was going to be the last time I saw him. And it devastated our family, devastated everyone in our family, as it does, in everyone else's family when a loved one takes it to that next level. So I'm a big believer in the mental health space. I used to think it was a really selfish way to do things for other people, but now I can see why they do it. Actually, it's admirable sometimes, because for someone to do that to themselves, that's a big decision to make. It's not a light decision, and they got the balls to do it. And I now it's only taken me 6 years, and I couldn't speak to my wife and that about it, because I'm a pretty internal sort of person like that. I had to go out and search for help. I had my older brother, put me onto someone. I went and spoke to them, and it's probably the best thing I've ever did in my life. I was a ticking time bomb. There was characteristics that weren't Bronx that were creeping in, and and I'm sort of glad that I spoke up, or went and got help and spoke about it, because ever since that day, I can talk about it. I can campaign for it, and do all that. And it is a big thing. Young kids, old people, like, they just don't understand. If they could sit at their own funeral and watch the support that they actually had, I think they're a different decision. But to get that intervention early, and to understand that who's at your funeral is there to help you if you ever had time of need. It's everyone's too late once you take your life. Like I said, if my brother could see, or he probably, from above, saw how many people were at his funeral that were there to help him. Definitely a different option I think he would have taken. So I'm a big mental health believer, and I push it quite hard. So
that's good, man. I really appreciate you sharing that story.
That's right.
I didn't expect a deep story like that, but I really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah. So that's our family. That it's only the truthful stories and the heartfelt stories that I think get in and people actually listen to.
Absolutely.
Because if you can tell a story about something, but if it's from the heart and the pain's there, I think it's a lot. It means a lot more. It does.
It touches these, especially with yourself, with these New South Wales Cup guys. You're sharing a story like that with them. If they're going through their own mental health, it touches them a lot better, and easier, so they can actually go, oh crap, I've our coach has
Yeah.
gone through this, so yeah, we need to go talk to someone and get help.
Exactly right. And, I'm always a person to help where I can. I understand what it's about. And I do it in everyday life, mate. If someone I think's feeling down, I'll stop and have a chat.
Yeah.
They might tell me to piss off, but I thought you were upset, and I'm here. To this day and age, I still volunteer and I still do all this stuff to help other people. I think it's just a good thing. It makes me feel good to give my time, and sometimes I work myself to the end of nowhere. But it's not about me. It's about if I can put a smile or on someone's face or do something like that. That's what does it for me.
Yeah, exactly, mate. I mean, I did the same thing. I went through a depression myself, and I tried to end it. I was going through a lot of different things.
Yep.
And then I mean, I didn't go see anyone about it, but once I met my wife now, my life just changed. I was on antidepressants, like heavy antidepressants, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I met her, and my life just changed. And
it only takes one small change.
Yeah, and I felt like I had someone that had my back. I didn't feel like that before.
Yeah.
And then we moved to New Zealand, and her family just made me, welcome, and I felt like they had my back.
Yeah.
So it just a snowball effect, and it was great.
Yeah, that's good.
And I did the same thing at work now. Like I've had a couple of mates at work, and I just said to them, mate, I don't know you from a bar or so, but if you need a chat, one of them lost his dad just recently. I said, mate, if you need a chat, just come see me. You know where I am. If you want my phone number, mate, I'll give you my phone number. And I think it's just that someone to lean on. Sometimes you do need a stranger, but just someone to have a chat with.
I think this day and age, the whole I'm a male macho man, it's sort of left the building, if you ask myself.
Yeah.
Gone are the days of holding it in and self-internalizing it and erupting and then doing silly things. I think a lot more people understand that it's not all about being macho and being strong and showing the outside. Everyone has feelings, personally, it was a bit of an embarrassment when I had to talk about it, but now I'm like, it's not an embarrassment. Yeah. It's a story, and it tells a story and tells who I am, and there's vulnerabilities there because everyone has them.
Absolutely.
Guys don't like to show vulnerability very often, but it's there. You work on that every day. I work on it every day because sometimes I can be a hard ass, and sometimes
Yeah. No, that's it, mate. Like I said, I really appreciate you sharing that story with me.
That's no problem, man.
Yeah, it means a lot because, like I said, I've been through it. I've lost a lot of family members myself, so I know what it's like.
Yeah, it sucks. It's not a good feeling. Until you've lived it, it's it's very difficult. But time does heal. Time does heal. Speaking about it it's a big thing to get you over it. Well, for me, it was like to be able to speak about him, understanding why he did it and stuff like that. You sort of can put yourself at ease. It still hurts, but it makes things a little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely. We'll jump back off that subject so we get back into some good vibes. In your rugby league career, what have you taken out of your career that's made you into the man, the father, the husband that you are today?
Oh, geez, you hear something here. My work ethic, I'd like to say, honestly, I can say my work ethic's up here. If I put my, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. That's it. There's no in between. I don't bullshit. I just, if I give you my word, that's it. It's like, on a footy field, you learn to trust your, I'm talking in defensive terms, but you learn to trust your inside. Because if you didn't, you'd be standing there waiting for someone and you get shown up. So it's the biggest trust. Yeah, you got to be trustworthy and honest. Probably the same word. In my life, sometimes I haven't been honest, sometimes I haven't been trustworthy, but I'm human. But I make a decision to always have my moral compass pointing forward because, yeah, as hard as it is sometimes, I stick to my moral purposes. And some people don't like it, but tough shit. You're not going to change me. Like, morally, that's what I think's right. Well, that's what I think. Like, I don't care. And it'll always work itself out. Working hard. Like, you have to work hard. Nothing's free in this world. And that's what I got out of it, and I think it comes as a kid. That's sort of, it's ingrained in you when you're growing up on, your traits and your personalities. I think if you're willing to work hard and not alter, anyone who works towards something has that in it. It doesn't have to be football. You could be a labourer that wants to lay 400 bricks in a day. You succeed that's the same as me succeeding playing NRL. That's how it needs to be. That's how it needs to be seen because, there's NRL footballers out there making $1 million a year, but the goals and the standards that people do, they're on every day. Like, they go to training. We go to training. I go to work. I give my best, and I succeed. Like, it's the same. I think that when you learn that in your life, that everyone's equal and you're not better than anyone else, that's when you really start to enjoy life. So that's what I think.
Yeah, that's it, bro. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's great that you've taken that out to make yourself, that better husband, father, to your girls and your wife. That's awesome.
They could say different.
Yeah, probably would, eh? Yeah, you're just saying that so she agrees with you.
Makes dinner. No. No,
absolutely. If you could go back and give advice to your younger self, mate, coming up, and hopefully this advice is able to be passed on to the kids coming through today, over here in Perth that want to become an NRL player, what would you say to them?
What would I give my younger self? Is probably to listen more and talk less. I listen, but I also talk a lot of crap too. You're like any young kid, and you're good, and you think you're this and that. But I think listen, and talk less. Later in my football career, I started to do that, and you sort of make a lot more pathways, and in life in general. You listen a bit more, and you don't get in trouble.
Yep.
But that's my philosophy anyway. So I tell kids just to listen more. You may not agree with it, but everyone has an opinion. That's what you have to understand. Everyone has an opinion, and no one's ever right.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That'd be mine.
What have you got? I guess in a way of advice for the young kids in Perth, that are seeing, people like Kennedy and Ruben Sherrington and Wonga Blake, all these sort of guys that have had to move back over east to make a career. What have you got to say to these young kids that are, I guess, in the 16s, 17s, making the rep sides, wanting that future in rugby league? What do you got for them?
Yeah, mate, I'd say, never give up. You can't give up. Even though you live in Perth and, what are you, 8,000 K or 4,500 Ks away, whatever it is. I think it's 7.5. But, train like you're going to succeed, because you do that, you will succeed. There's in life, someone's always going to see you. This day, especially this day and age, there's scouts everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're not left out. Like, you'll always get an opportunity to do something if you want it. Want it enough. If you want it enough, you'll get it. And there's always comps, like your schoolboys competitions, you got all that, so you can get here. And when you get here, you got to give it all, because there's, in our club itself, we've got 90 to 150 kids wanting the same thing you want, and then understanding that only 2% of those kids will ever play first grade. It's a pretty big thing. But like I said, don't give up and give it everything you got. If that's what you want in life, like anything in life, you want anything, you got to go get it, and you can't waver on when you're getting it.
Yeah, no, that's it. Mate, that's all I've got for you today. I really appreciate you giving me your time. I know
No problem.
your wife is waiting for you to have a chat with you.
She's sitting in the back corner.
How you doing?
Yeah. Well, then my daughter, she's just over there eating. So.
Cool, eh?
Yeah.
But like I said, man, I really appreciate you giving me your time, mate. If you ever come back over to Perth for a holiday, you and your family, mate, you're more than welcome. Let me know, and we'll catch up. Have go out to dinner with my family, or if I can fit all my kids in the
not
cars.
a problem, brother.
But yeah,
no, all good.
Yeah,
And
no,
what club are you at? What club are you
my kids are at the moment they're at Fremantle, the Fremantle
Freo.
Roosters.
Okay. I played at Freo under 30, I think it was. We won the grand final. 13s I played down there, the Roosters.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we were at Serpentine Jarrahdale last year, which was a new club. They've only been around for a couple of years.
Yeah, yep.
But there's a few things that have gone on, so we've decided to move on to another club.
Move over. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
nice.
But yeah, no, we
still don't like you, Perth, you know
that. Yeah, that's it. It's all good. No. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you giving me your time, mate. Yeah, if you ever over here, mate, don't hesitate to give me a call and we'll catch up and we'll
mate. Anyone ever comes over this way that you want me to take in and show them around our club, and even take them to a game, they can come sit up in the box with me while I coach. I'm always happy to invite anyone along who wants to learn. So if you're ever over here, always give me a buzz, and I'll always organise something to get you in there and have a look around and see what it's actually like in the big time down here.
Mate, I would appreciate that. I'm looking at coming over during the year this year, so yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So when you get over here, just drop me a line. You got my number now, so just text me and I'll make it happen, mate. It's not a problem.
No worries. Appreciate that. Bronx Goodwin, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA.
Too easy, brother. Have a good one.
You too, mate. Thank you.
See you later, bro. Bye.
Yeah.